Hello everybody and welcome back to the labs. I am Tousty and this is our last, at least what I think is going to be our last module spotlight on Applied Energistics 2 for 1.7.10. We are still using the Bevo tech pack for our spotlight world here. I highly recommend it. It's a great pack. I've added a few things and made a few adjustments myself for the Reclaimer and my recording series in this pack. But if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing or working along with it, that's what I'm using. Today, for our module spotlight, we are going to be looking at the last few blocks that I have left out from our spotlights in Applied Energistics 2 and some of the endgame systems. So this is really endgame and all of the leftovers from AE2 that I haven't had a chance to cover, but are still very, very cool. The first one we're going to look at today is the wireless access point. The wireless access point is pretty easy to make, but is a little expensive. It requires a wireless receiver, and now you're going to need one of these guys. I believe you're going to need two of them if you really want to make this useful. But you're going to need a wireless receiver, which is just a Fluix pearl, some of the quartz fiber we've seen, and some iron, a processor, a calculation processor, and you're going to need the Fluix cable. The other thing you're going to need is a security terminal. The security terminal is a chest, some processor, some storage, all stuff we've seen before, nothing too hard. Both the wireless access point and the security terminal are going to need a channel, so keep that in mind when you're putting them on your cabling in your network somewhere. They both require a channel, and if you're not sure what that means or what that's about, take a look at the earlier spotlight, particularly the networking one. The AE2 networking module spotlight, that'll help explain some of that a bit, I hope. So, your wireless access point is exactly what you think it is. It is a wireless point at which you connect to see everything in your network. So you're going to make yourself a wireless terminal, which is why I said you need two wireless receivers. With that, you're also going to add another ME terminal and a dense energy cell. Once you have all three of these things, you are ready to connect to your network wirelessly. You're going to come over to your security terminal. You're going to put your wireless terminal in the top slot here, and it'll be linked to your network. Once you've done that, you have access to your network so long as you have a wireless access point connected somewhere on it with a channel. Now, if I right-click, we can see everything that's in our network. However, this does have a limited range. It may or may not cover your entire base. For that, we have these wireless boosters. Quite easy to make, just some Certus quartz, some ender dust, and some Fluix dust. You're going to take your boosters, you then come over here, and you're going to put them in your wireless access point. By default, the config is usually set to having 16 max boosters. With those 16 boosters, I should be able to come somewhere over here and be fine. Yep, quite the distance on here. And we're going to ask to get rid of him, aren't we? Now we're not going to worry about Mr. Crown here. So, just with 16, we have quite the distance. That is a config setting though. You are able to add more, though it will not continue to increase the range. So right now I can put a full stack of these in here, but it really doesn't seem to help increase the range that much. However, in your config setting, if you want to be able to add more boosters that are effective, then you will be able to do that. This says it goes 528 meters, but I don't think it really does. I tried this earlier and I cannot get that far out. We could come to about here with our 16 upgrades, and if I keep flying, we'll see that I only make it a little bit further. Definitely not 4 times as far, and now we're out of range. So you can see it's really, it may not be true to the number that it shows, and that is something you can look at in your config file. Still, really cool. With some upgrades, I can get all over my base and have access to all the building materials I need. You will also have access to anything that you have set to be craftable in your auto crafting system in Applied Energistics 2. I seem to be having a few chunk problems. Let's reset those. Okay, so that is the wireless system. Before we move on, let's take a deeper look at the security terminal. This is a really neat block that serves a lot of functions, some of which I really just don't know about yet. But what you can do is you can create permissions for people to use your applied energistics system. If you take I cannot type at all, biometric card, you can give a person permissions. Right now, this is set to me. My biometric card has no permissions selected in this network. But because it is my network, that's not a big problem. So what you want to do is you want to give a biometric card with permissions on it to another player. What you can say is this person is allowed to put new items in the storage in my AE system, or this person is only allowed to take stuff out. They can't add stuff. I'm not really sure why you would do that, but that is an option as well. You could say this person is allowed to initiate new crafting. So when your auto crafting system, they can start crafting jobs for you, but they can't really take anything out or put anything in. You can say that they're able to add and remove and change your network structure in general. And you can say whether or not they're allowed to access this block. You can also just check them all on and make this person a full, really kind of like an op in your AE system. So that is how that works. It does some other things as well, but I won't really go into them because unless you're playing on a PvP server or a server where you have a public server online and you're a little concerned about your items, this is as far as you're going to need to go, but there are other options. So if you're curious about that block, feel free to play around a little bit more. And if you want to know more about it, just let me know down below and I'll spotlight that in a bit more detail because there's some other things that this can do. However, get yourself a biometric card, give people permissions over your network. So we've got our wireless system set up. We know our security terminal. We're really moving along in applied energistics 2. The next thing I want to show you is a very, very neat system for moving your wireless network around different dimensions and around the world, or not really moving, but accessing it from a much further distance than your wireless terminal will allow you to. That can be done using a system that is very, very, very much the late game, the end game of AE. This system requires a lot of power. It requires a singularity, which we looked at earlier, and requires 256,000 bytes of material in a condenser, I believe, to make your singularity, which requires one of these larger storage clusters. And it also requires a few blocks that are fairly expensive. So let's begin to look at that. You get yourself some quantum link chambers and some quantum rings. You're going to take your singularity that you got in your ME condenser, and you're going to need to create a matched pair of these. The only way to do that, because of quantum physics and whatnot, is to explode something on it. I believe this can be done with a creeper or TNT, but for our purposes, we're going to use the tiny TNT provided to us by Applied Energistics 2. This tiny TNT will serve the same function as TNT for our purposes here. However, it does not create as big of an explosion as full TNT. All we're going to need is a lever or redstone signal of some sort. Throw our our matter singularity here. I'm going to throw that on the ground, this, and give our little baby TNT here a redstone signal. It will explode, take out a bit of the ground around it, not a lot, and do absolutely nothing. That is not normal. What this is supposed to do is create one of these. Actually, two of these quantum entangled singularities. Oh, that's because I forgot half of the recipe. I am sorry. Let's fix that. You're going to need to put it on the ground with ender dust. I knew I forgot something, but okay. So you're going to find yourself some ender dust. I'm looking specifically for the one from Applied Energistics 2. You can use others that are order dictionaried as this. However, not all ender dust from all mods may be acceptable. It really depends on how they've created it. So you're going to put your ender dust down, your singularity down, then you're going to put your baby TNT down with your redstone signal, and you're going to give it another quick explosion. There we go. Now you're going to create two quantum entangled singularities. And if you had looked up the recipe on these, you would have seen that as well without having to watch me derp around with those for as long as I did. So we've got us a quantum entangled singularity. These are what link your wireless systems together across dimensions or across your world over great distances. Now, the thing with these are they only match each other. So it's not like you can have a big network of these linking across worlds to different ones. They only match one other singularity, and that is why they're quantum entangled. They only match each other. So one thing you may want to do if you have several of these is identify them and keep them so that you know what they are. And you can rename them. So for example, we can say this is our main base network. And let's put this guy in here and make sure we're doing the same thing. Main base network. Ooh, that would have been bad. Same thing, really? There we go. So we've got our two quantum entangled singularities. I have renamed them in the worst way possible. There we go. They are linked together. They are identified, so we cannot accidentally mix them up with another one. The next thing we're going to need to do is create our multi-block structure. Now, sometimes in NEI, it will show us this, or show us the uses using text. However, this one, I really recommend you go and look on his wiki for it. What you're going to need is some quantum rings. And forgive me, I always get this wrong, but I wanted to try and remember it. I practiced this, and I did it wrong as well. But, oh well. So you get your quantum entangled singularity. There we go. I did do it right. Your quantum rings. Make a ring of them, and put your quantum link chamber in the center. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your quantum entangled singularities and put it in the link chamber. At this point, we've got it connected to our ME system. However, we may be out of channels. So just in case, I need to check this out. I am going to remove our buses and things from it just so I know that it's doing okay channel-wise. All right. It may not need a channel. I haven't actually tested this with the new applied energetics system. Now what I'd like to do is come over, I don't know, let's go right here. This is like a good place. And make a second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's not the right block. And like that. Put this guy in here. It has a link. I'm going to give it some power because these things suck up a lot of juice. This is a creative cell from Ender.io, which is another fantastic mod. I'm going to make sure it's outputting power to it and see how this goes. And I'm going to run all the way over here and give this its own source of power as well. Actually, now that I think about it, let's just give it a creative energy cell so I don't have to convert any electricity or anything like that. Ooh, that's a miss. Boom. And let's run back here and give it our creative energy cell as well. It's actually over here. There we go. Now you can see that it has a power, it has a connection, it's got this little animation going on the inside of your quantum link chamber. It's a good sign for us. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get a terminal, which I have 56 of in my inventory, and some cable, which only connect to the larger blocks. And we're going to see that we have a successful link to our system. So you need your quantum ring, you need your quantum chamber, you need power on both of them, and you need to have some way of accessing through a terminal, crafting terminal, something. Wireless terminal even is fine. This is now transferring the signal from that system to this one so I can fully interact with my applied energistic system in another spot in the world. This works across dimensions. If you have Mistcraft installed, if you go to the Nether or the End, if you have Galacticraft installed and you go into space, this is a way of setting up a link, a permanent link, to your base ME system without having to carry a bunch of drives with you. Really, really, really cool. However, it is very, very expensive. So we are looking at this here. We've got a logic processor, an engineering processor, an energy cell, some iron, and some ME dense cable. We've seen that before. And that's for the quantum ring, which only makes one, and you're going to need 8 of. Then you're also going to need this quantum blank chamber, which is Fluix pearls and quartz glass. Again, the other thing you're going to need is a singularity, and I will show you how to get that once again, just in case you missed that part. You don't need to go back and watch the whole spotlight. But you're going to need to go into here, into your matter condenser, put your 64K ME storage component in, and you're going to need to set the output to a condenser. Then you're going to need to shove items into this block until you have filled your ME, or filled it with energy, and it will output a singularity. This can be fully automated. You can hook up a cobble gen to it that pipes cobblestone into it continuously, and have a pipe sucking out of the side of it, and it will pull out the singularity as soon as it is made. This way, you can create several of these if over time while you're building and working on your base. So that is all I'm going to say about that, though. And as we move forward, we're going to look at the last couple of things I wanted to show you. There is a system in Applied Energistics 2 that I will probably do a separate video for, because this one is already going long. And that's why I said that this was most likely going to be our last one, but may not be, because this system is quite involved, and I'll show it to you in a later video. And this is the spatial storage setup. In the spatial storage setup, you have spatial pylons and I/O ports. You have a similar system of storage as to the storage disks. However, they are much bigger. You see these are 4K, 64K storage cells. The spatial storage cells require a similar recipe because the disk housing is the same, but it also requires a different internal storage component, which is processors, glowstone, Fluix pearls, and that's for the basic one. If you want the big one, you can see it's very, very expensive. But what this allows you to do is essentially store blocks in the world. So I could set up a network to take all that you see here, surround it with the spatial pylons and the connections properly, and I would move it to a spatial storage disk, take it somewhere else in the world, put it in the I/O port, and then unload it from the disk just as it is here. That might not make a lot of sense, but I'll do a separate video for that if you'd like me to. Leave a comment below and let me know. It's very complicated. It has a few, in my opinion, just very particular uses in regular survival Let's Plays or survival multiplayer or single player, whatever you're doing. It's got very, very limited uses, I think, because it's so expensive. But if you do want to move your whole base, it is very, very cool how it works and just how it looks. It is fantastic. So that's the majority of things. Just going through NEI here, making sure I didn't miss anything. We've got our crafting structures we've looked at in the crafting video, energy acceptor, energy cells. I think we've covered most everything. There are some other terminals here we haven't looked at, such as the illuminated panels. These are exactly what they sound like. They create light when you put them on. They don't require a channel. They are just a neat way of creating light around your base if you already got cables running anyways. But while they don't require a channel, they do require power. They will line up to the color of your cabling, such as all the other devices do. Just another neat way of giving power. The toggle buses are much like the other buses, like the level emitter and like the export bus, import bus, storage bus, but these are actually redstone signals that you can toggle on and off within a cable and within the block next to it. Excuse me. The only other things that we haven't really looked at are the planes. We have the Annihilation Plane and the Formation Plane. Now, the Formation Plane is a new block to AE2, but the Annihilation Plane we really have seen before. And I cannot for the life of me find the Formation Plane. Thanks, NEI. There we go. So these two blocks might not look like much, but we're going to take them over and attach them to our system anyways, because they are quite cool. So let's run a cable out here. Get out of my way, flower. Actually, I've got my controller here. Let's run one out here. And let's pick up some of this cable. I don't want it connected, and run it up this way. This way, it's from a separate side of my controller, and I don't have to worry about the channels. Thank you. All right. So the Annihilation Plane will destroy, essentially, any block that it is near. But it will actually not just destroy it and delete it, it will store it in the system. So if I put the Annihilation Plane like that, once it receives a channel, it will pick up the block underneath it. So it's important to remember it has to receive a channel first. It won't just do it. If you look in our system, you'll see we have an extra piece of dirt. I know I didn't show that off ahead of time, so it's kind of hard to remember that. But we do have an extra piece of dirt now. That's the idea with the Annihilation Plane. You can use this in a cobble gen with a lava water cobble gen, just a vanilla cobble gen system. Put the storage plane on top of it, and away it goes. I've seen this used with blood magic to create an incredibly quick cobble gen system. You can also use it for farming purposes. I have used these planes before to grow melons. And I'll show you that as an example and let these grow while I'm showing you the formation plane. So I'm going to put this guy just like I had it before with the dirt, but I'm going to allow it to pick up the dirt once it's done. I'm going to grab oops, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to grab a hoe, pull out this grass here, and I'm just, for the sake of control, going to put some extra dirt around the outside. Just like that. And then I'm going to grab some melon seeds. Throw some bone meal on it, get it grown up so we can look at the formation plane. All right. In a little bit, this will start producing melons. And when it does, we'll see the formation plane, or the Annihilation Plane, sorry, just picks them right up. And that can be really, really handy for us. So now let's hook up our formation plane while we wait for that to happen, shall we? All right, apparently I'm coming this way with it. I'm going to hook it up on the ground on purpose. So the formation plane is pretty interesting. It works somewhat like a storage bus where you get to pick and choose what items you have filtered here and what priority it has. Within that, if we look at the planes can take some cards. It can take an inverted card, it can take a fuzzy card, and it can take a capacity card. But only the formation plane. The Annihilation Plane over there, it does not take cards. It doesn't need them. It basically just does its job and does it very well. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to take some melon slices. I'm going to put it here and give it a really high priority so that when that does happen, we'll see what goes on with our formation plane. I do have one in my inventory though. You can see here that it just chunks the item out into the world. As soon as it receives an item, it throws it into the world. This can be really handy for moving items around and different blocks that need to be put down in the world. That might not sound like it's overly useful, but this is a lot more accurate than a dropper, say. If you'd like to use this, you can say, let's make it part of my crafting system for dropping my pure seeds into the puddle of water over there, and eventually they'll be picked up and sent back into the system. That's what this can be used for, among other things. The formation plane is a really neat block. Again, the reason I'd say it's endgame is because it has a very specific use. It's not that generally used, but it can help you with your builds. With that, I believe I have covered everything I expected to. If I've missed anything and you want to see more, just leave a comment and let me know what I missed and ask me if I can cover it, and I'll do my best to either learn how it's used or just show you what I know about it already. If you have any questions about this module spotlight or about any of the other ones, leave a comment below and I'll take a look at them and be sure to try and answer them. But if you liked these module spotlights, I have mostly completed my AE2 spotlights. Leave a like and subscribe. It'll help us out a little bit. We'll be starting up a new series here. Keep your eye out for it. Thanks for stopping by. And again, let me know if you have any questions at all or if I missed anything or gave some incorrect information. I always need to try and correct that kind of stuff. I'll put that in the description. Still, the sun once again is going down on our module spotlight, and it seems like a good time to end. Have a good day.